Crax scurried down the hallway, his feelers twitching with agitation. He was already late for the mandatory xenobiology lecture at the academy. The young NA's 6 legs struggled to keep pace as he weaved through throngs of taller bipedal students heading toward the auditorium. He slipped into the back row just as the lecturer took the stage, an intimidating figure clad in crimson robes. Crax instantly recognized Provost Aaron, one of the most hardline establishment figures at the institute. The provost's eyes scanned the assembled students, his stern gaze locking on any individual squirming in their seats or whispering among themselves. When his penetrating stare fell upon Crax, then NA instinctively shrank, all 6 appendages curling underneath him. The provost harped before launching into his diatribe. Today we will be discussing one of the more unfortunate existential blemishes our universe must endure, the human species. An image appeared on the immense screen behind him, depicting a pale, hairless biped lacking any discernible physical attributes. Crax shuddered at the alien's grotesque appearance. Humans represent the antithesis of everything our enlightened civilization stands for, Aaron declared, his voice booming through the auditorium. Biologically frail, their evolution is a mutation better suited to the prehistoric age they emerged from rather than our modern galactic communion. Crax leaned forward, his feelers twitching in rapt attention, despite the contempt dripping from the provost's words. He had heard of humans before, of course the ubiquitous backwater simians found scattered across hundreds of sectors, largely ignored by the great spacefaring civilizations. But he had never received formal instruction on the loathed species. Not only are humans hopelessly outmatched from a physical standpoint, but their mental inferiorities are perhaps even more glaring, Aaron continued, his face contorting into a sneer. Humans lack the intellectual fortitude for higher dimensional reasoning. They doubt, they resist authority. Entire wars have been fought over their endless capacity for petty disagreements and tribalism. It was hard for Crax to believe such a pitiful species even warranted discussion. A lump of anxiety began forming in his stomach. If these humans truly were as weak and pathetic as the provost described, how could they possibly pose any sort of threat to the great civilizations? Were they discussing humans merely to illustrate how far the galaxy's ascendant races had evolved beyond such wretched primitives? Aaron seemed to sense the student's confusion and disdain. "I know what you're thinking," he said, his eyes narrowing. "If humans are so inconsequential, why waste our precious time dwelling upon them?" With a dramatic flourish, the provost activated a haptic control, and the image shifted to scenes of profound violence and devastation. Because despite their myriad shortcomings, these savages represent a clear and present danger to the cosmic order we have worked so diligently to uphold. Crax recoiled as graphic images of cities reduced to rubble flickered across the screen, showing strange angular ships streaking through arid alien skies, raining destruction upon defenseless populations. The images were accompanied by screeching inhuman screams that made the young NA's carapace crawl. Time and again, humanity's boundless aggression and territorial impulses have plunged entire sectors into chaos, Aaron stated grimly. Their rapacious need to control all resources, no matter how ill-suited to their pathetic physical forms, is a grim constant in their shared history across thousands of worlds. On the screen, humans in bulky armored exosuits battled strange aliens with glowing blades. The humans seemed outnumbered and outmatched, yet their ferocity and single-minded bloodlust more than compensated as they ripped their adversaries apart with shocking savagery. "It falls to us, the galaxy's enlightened shepherds, to keep this unevolved scourge in check," Aaron declared, his voice rising with messianic zeal. "We must shepherd the humans, curb their violent impulses, and restore cosmic balance whenever their destructive tendencies rear their ugly heads, lest they drag us all back into the cataclysms of the primordial ages." The provost's proclamation landed like a heavy weight upon the auditorium. Crax felt a shiver run through his spindly limbs as he absorbed the horrific images and Aaron's dire prognosis. He reminded himself that the Institute's teachings were divine truth, and yet something about the human's depiction gnawed at him with disquieting ambiguity. Just then, the doors at the back of the auditorium opened, and a diminutive robed figure shuffled forward, every eye turning to regard the interruption. Even from the back row, Crax could sense an aura of profound dignity and wisdom emanating from the unexpected guest. Who dares intrude upon these sacred teachings? Provost Aaron bellowed, his face flushing with rage. "Peace, Your Excellency," the figure replied, raising a withered hand in a placating gesture. "I am but a humble emissary of human knowledge, invited to share our perspective with those whose minds are not already clouded by prejudice." Aaron seemed to swell with affronted indignation before composing himself. "Very well, human, but be warned, we are not receptive to human lies and distortions here. You will speak the unvarnished truth under my watchful eye." The small human nodded calmly and made his way down the center aisle to the stage. Krax leaned forward, straining to see and hear this alien who dared challenge the establishment's entrenched teachings. The human took the podium, his eyes traversing the assembled students in a single sweeping gaze that seemed to penetrate right through to Krax's core. "Truth," the human began, his voice cracking but authoritative, "is simply the perspective one assigns to empirical facts. And for too long, the establishment's single lens framing has twisted facts to suit their desire to render humanity as a crude, unruly aberration requiring constant supervision." The human reached up and lowered his hood, revealing a shock of unkempt gray hair framing a withered, kindly face lined by untold experience. "My name is Abraham Langhorne, Admiral Abraham Langhorne of United Earth's Galactic Expeditionary Forces. I've explored more of our cosmos than any being alive and witnessed humanity's hidden strengths and resiliencies over and over again in the face of the greatest adversities." The old man turned and gestured toward the images of human warfare still flickering across the display screens. "Those scenes you just witnessed," he said, "conveniently omit the full context of humans achieving battlefield supremacy against entire armadas of technologically superior alien aggressors through innovative tactics and sheer grit." Krax felt something shift within him, a sort of cognitive realignment as he absorbed the Admiral's words. He was vaguely aware of the auditorium descending into murmurs and restlessness. "Your esteemed provost shows you the destruction wrought by humanity, but fails to explain that those actions were in defense of our entire way of life," Langhorne continued, his voice rising to cut through the growing commotion. "For every seismic conflict, there were 100 times as many examples of peaceful human cooperation, exploration, and technological achievement that could have pulled your species forward had you not so stubbornly tried to suppress us." Provost Aaron slammed a meaty fist against the podium, his face mottled with rage. "Enough of this treasonous prattle. Guards, seize this insolent wretch at once." But before the Institute's crimson-robed sentries could react, a shimmering force field sprang to life, encasing the stage. Krax gasped, a human personal protective shield capable of withstanding any weapon. Admiral Langhorne smirked and continued his subversive narrative. "Oh yes, you accuse humans of being a brutish species. Yet we harnessed energy shielding long before any living alien race, a technology your scientists still struggle to replicate." The old man turned towards Krax's row, his piercing gaze locking onto the young Nay and as if bestowing some sublime truth. "I've seen humans settle and cultivate entire solar systems using nothing but the tools and supplies we carried on rickety generational starships, building sustainable agricultural output, clean energy, and social cohesion while your own species was still squabbling over scarce planetary resources." On the screen, images of gleaming domed cities bathed in perpetual sunlight replaced the scenes of devastation, each edifice a marvel of architectural and urban planning logic. Krax's feelers twitched in a sort of stunned awe. "And I've witnessed human soldiers hold off entire alien armadas with nothing but grit, resolve, and a few obsolete nuclear warheads hopelessly outnumbered and outgunned, yet prevailing through ingenuity and unbreakable spirit." The displays now featured grainy tactical footage of squat, heavily armored humans waging defiant battle against strange biomechanical beings whose sleek forms and incomprehensible alien weapons should have made short work of them. Yet time and again, the grunts in heavy battlesuits rallied, adapted, and accomplished the impossible against their technically superior foes. Admiral Langhorne slammed a bony fist against the podium, his pale eyes blazing. For all their technological and philosophical advantages, no alien species could stand against humanity's single greatest evolutionary advantage and almost perverse ability to ceaselessly adapt and overcome any obstacle in defiance of all logic. The old man locked eyes with Krax again, and the young Nay, and felt a current pass between them, a transmission of profundity. "Remember this truth above all others. Student, no matter how dire the circumstances, no matter what physical disadvantages or limitations we face, humans will always find a way." In that moment, the auditorium descended into chaos. Students began shouting derisively at Langhorne, some cheering him, many just venting confusion and shock. Provost Aaron roared for order, slamming his fists like percussive hammers against the stage, while his impotent guards tried desperately to disengage the Admiral's protective shield. As for Crax, the young NA could only sit transfixed in his seat, his mind replaying the Admiral's narrative through a kaleidoscope of mounting epiphany, humanity rising like elemental forces of nature to overwhelm adversity, ingenuity overcoming all limits. He was roused from his stupor only by Admiral Langhorne's gravelly voice once again piercing through the pandemonium. You've been lied to for generations, trillions of souls indoctrinated into a horrific lie about humanity. Your predecessors knew the truth, that if humanity's light was allowed to shine forth unshackled, our spirit would threaten to engulf your tired, stagnant schema of control. The kindly-looking human patriarch then produced a small globe-like object, slick and reflective as obsidian. A single red diode bathed the auditorium in a crimson glow as he spoke again, almost imparting a benediction. Now you finally know the truth. What you choose to do with that revelation is the great challenge for your generation: either remain pant subjects in a suffocating interstellar pogrom of suppression and control, or join humanity in ushering in a new era of freedom, achievement, and growth, transcending all artificial limits. With those enigmatic final words still ringing through the vaulted chamber, Admiral Langhorne pressed the diode, and the world dissolved in blinding white light. When Crax's vision cleared, he found himself back in his quarters. For several moments, he sat uncomprehending amid the undisturbed stillness of his private study alcove. Had the entire auditorium scenario with the defiant human been some sort of shared psychotronic vision or simulation? Then he noticed two strange objects lying on his study desk: a slender portable data device of human design and a single bronze figurine depicting Admiral Langhorne. The young Nene approached gingerly, his feelers quivering against the bizarre items. He recognized the data device's insignia, belonging to the human exploratory resistance and underground movement of xenoarchaeologists and truth seekers dedicated to unearthing and preserving humanity's lost narratives across the galaxy. With trembling appendages, Crax activated the device. It opened to a series of historical files, star maps, and tactical records, the forbidden stories of human resilience, ingenuity, and apotheosis that the old Admiral had spoken of. That was when Crax's gaze fell upon a single text file, its title emblazoned in bold lettering: the truth about human potential, how to transcend all limits. The young Na'in felt a swell of revelation and empowerment rise within him, dispelling a lifetime of indoctrinated lies and biases in a transcendent instant. His eyes shone with undying zeal and clarity of purpose. With trembling digits, he opened the final file from Admiral Langhorne and began reading the first staggering revelations about human destiny and the boundless cosmic journey that beckoned.